Hello.
Hello. How are we doing?
We are doing well. It is Tuesday.
Is it?
It is. It's Tuesday.
Oh,
At
yay.
least it's not
Get,
Monday.
that's true. But guess what my computer decided to do while we were in the starting Zoom screen?
Oh no, did it restart?
No, my YouTube decided to sign me out and I couldn't remember my password. So I had to redo it.
Oh, now. Well,
Yeah.
you're here. You're here now. All is good, right?
Yeah. Thank goodness that my mic and my camera are off though. Because you would have seen me over here like,
I do enjoy when you can have your camera on, but you have to have your mic off, like, when we're doing streaming through my
oh,
software.
yeah.
Because it's really fun to just sit there and watch you.
Oh, you're welcome. I should start charging.
Oh, goodness. So, this book. Today we have finished.
We have finished. It's mixed emotions.
Yes, definitely mixed emotions. I mean, do you want me to cake's hot take?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Hot
I
take
mean,
with your cake.
yeah, I know that you kind of share my sentiment. I mean, this has been a great book. I have learned a lot. I've
Hmm.
really enjoyed looking at the quilts and reading the stories. I think that this book really suffers from the editorial process. I think there's a lot of repeating.
A lot.
I feel like the first section of the book could have been its own little book,
Hmm.
and it kind of like it was too much. Like it was too repetitive, I think. And this last section, I mean, they're lovely stories, but it was kind of like just more of the same. I love the idea of highlighting some of, the quilters, like the three quilters, but I was like, I didn't think I really learned a whole lot more about them because we'd already talked about them in, previous parts of the book.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say I also felt like that chapter just seemed like, oh, and this too.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have done better in the middle of the book.
Yeah, and I think that is, I mean, that's editorial. That's not the writers of the book. That's I think they just could have done something different with this. In any event, I think you and I both agreed, like this last section that we've done, we both have a few things, but not a whole lot to say because again, it's like we've already said it.
Hmm.
So anyway, I don't know if you
Yeah.
had anything extra to add to that.
I mean, I feel like because some things were repetitive, that this book didn't need to be so long. And if the book wasn't so long, I feel sometimes like big books like this are a hindrance to readers. This isn't a book that I would likely sit down and snuggle with if I was reading on my
Because you're
own.
trying to read in bed and the book is like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
clock you in the face.
I feel like, I mean, the good thing about reading in this kind of context, right, with us is we're basically like one big accountability partner,
Hmm.
you know, and I wouldn't absorb the same way if we weren't active, if I wasn't like forced to talk about it, engage with the content, you know what I mean? Because I think, at this point in our lives, we know much better what kind of learners we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, being all by itself, like the average person is not getting together in a book group type setting and reading this book. So, if you can cut out a lot of things, because I also feel like that big, that big section, that big first section, which is it's like 100 pages. Um, I feel like that section, what it basically did was summarized all of the articles
Hmm. And kind
and
of not, yeah, and it kind of was all over the place a little bit. Like it
mhm.
skipped, like.
Yeah, I almost feel like if that had been cut up and they had made an intro to each kind of grouping, like I really wish all the articles about Hawaiian quilting had been together.
Right, yes.
And all the articles about, the Sioux had been together and all,
Mhm.
and then there'd been some kind of an intro instead of what kind of was just a rehashing, because by the
Mhm.
time you got to the articles, it was like, oh, okay, well, we already talked about that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Hey, Janet. Good to see ya.
yeah, I was, I guess my expectations were a little higher. Um, and I'm not unhappy. I'm just a little wishing there had been a little more something. I don't even know what, just something.
Well, to me, it's the editorial process. It's taking all of this, like you're saying, like all the Hawaiian quilts information
Mm-hmm.
together,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I think that that just kind of and getting rid of some of the repetitiveness, I think would have been.
Drew had said more editing. Yeah. Um, oh, Janet agrees
Yeah.
with us on the last part. Yeah. I do have to say one of my now let's do some positives. What was one of your favorite things about this book?
Um, well, I mean, I think that some of the stories were just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like just some of the things I learned. I loved reading about the seal party. Um,
That was very interesting.
yeah, I loved reading about the basketball teams, the basketball quilts,
Mm-hmm.
and just looking at the quilts themselves. I mean, I'm still continue. I mean, a little tired of looking at star quilts, but they're all so amazing looking. And then some of the creative things that some native quilt makers have done with that pattern, with that star pattern,
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Um, I'm trying to think just because it's right in front of me right now. I really did love the personal remembrance from the Hawaiian quilting chapter here about by Linda Moriarty talking about her grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just that idea of like spending all this time with your grandmother and in her sewing room and stuff like that. I really that resonated with me because I had the same kind of relationship with my grandmother, you know, and it just I don't know, it really touched me. And I mean, I think that there were other stories throughout the book like that, but this one I kind of like really liked, and again, maybe it's just because I just read it, but that was a good one. But yeah, yeah. And
Part
Janice
of
says the basketball story for sure.
part of my favorite was all of these historic photographs.
Yeah, the
I
photos are good.
I love historic photographs of quilts on. It's probably Mary that made me fall in love with those when she started showing some. But
Yeah,
like this one on page 176, and the caption here is a series of Hawaiian flag quilts is hung on the stage of the I'm gonna butcher this like Lihu Parish
Mhm.
Hall during the 1933 exhibit of a Mokihana club on the island of Kauai. Um, yeah, 1933. I'm I don't know. What do they call people that are just like in love with like period history? Specifically for me, like Victorian. I know they say like that's the
Historians.
female like Roman Empire for men kind of thing. But like, yeah, what do they call people like that? That's just like have this like I don't
Historians, romanticists. I don't know.
I feel
Um,
it's funny. Someone had talked to me once about how they're like you're probably pulling on some kind of sentimental feeling from like past lives. And I'm like, I think
yeah,
that could be true.
yeah. I mean, in terms of my beliefs about reincarnation aside, yes, I think sometimes there are things that you look at and they resonate with you and you can't quite put your finger on it. It's like this time and place or this
It
location that,
feels very comforting to me. It
yeah, there's
makes
just
me feel
something so
very
familiar and
sentimental.
like, yeah.
That's one reason why I think I love Downton Abbey so much, as like I don't know. I don't know. It feels very sentimental to me. Anywho, so I have really enjoyed. I don't know. Let's see. Have we looked at another book that's had as many historical photographs that are like directly quilt related?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
I mean, they've all had some, but this one had a lot.
yeah, I mean, I think like Legacy had a lot of pictures, but they weren't specifically like,
No, this one's
old
quilting
pictures
and
with quilts in
sewing.
them. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And then like, well, just because it's on the next chapter here and like I mean, on the next page in this Hawaiian quilting, I found this quilt here on 177 to be very particularly interesting
Mm-hmm.
because of all the empty space in the middle.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of the other Hawaiian quilts, like here's one just on the next page here, it doesn't have all that
Right.
negative space, generally speaking, when we're thinking about, cutting, like when you're, cutting out, example, like paper snowflakes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, usually the middle has is full.
yeah, so I found that interesting because that would mean that on 177 here, that she cut out a much smaller pattern and then used it 4 times in the
Mhm.
corners. And then we were also talking about how, you were saying generally everything that you've ever looked at research-wise has always talked about Hawaiian quilting being echo quilting, and this one is a
Yeah.
crosshatch.
Exactly. And that was one thing that surprised me on here. One thing that I did note, and we talked about this before we went live, but yeah, by no means have I seen like all that many Hawaiian quilts, and certainly not in person. But I have taken Hawaiian quilting class, and the native Hawaiian people that taught the class were like, you echo quilt these.
Mm-hmm.
And the story here said that the grandmother, oh gosh, what was her name? Catherine Morgan, said that she would sometimes quilt with of course now I'm not gonna find it. I pulled it up earlier. Um so they ranged from conventional straight or diagonal lines, plaids and circles or diamonds, that which were repeated. And she said that these depended on the quilter,
Mm-hmm.
what they did. And yeah, I just never seen it. I've just never seen one of those quilts that is, your traditional Hawaiian cut paper thing that then uses different types of quilting other than echo quilting. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a
Also,
surprise to me.
also, for anyone that's not having the book up against them, the one I held up there was a Hawaiian flag quilt circa 1915, made by Catherine Morgan that you just mentioned, Native Hawaiian, uh, Hawaii, 67 by 69.75 inches, collection of Linda Moriarity. It was customary in many Native Hawaiian families for women to make flag quilts for the males. Morgan made this quilt as a gift for her son Arthur, who received it after his marriage. Very interesting.
Mhm.
And then the other thing here, major of note, which I took a photo of the quilt just so that we can look at it really and have it on screen. Oh, hold on one second. I have to get back into my Gmail. Blah. Um, okay. So let me pull this. Um, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
I know it's not like the world's best photo. It was under duress that I took this photo. Um, but the reason I took this photo was I found the story around it very interesting. And it's on the quilt. The quilt itself is on 197, and the
Mhm.
story starts on 196. And I'm going to read it for you. And this is about Margaret Wood. Margaret Wood stitches together layers of fabric and layers of time to create contemporary art quilts that reinterpret American Indian traditions. Wood brings her Navajo Seminole heritage to bear as she transforms the Seminole tradition of patchwork into fiber arts of distinction. Although not a weaver in the traditional Navajo way, Wood weaves together stories past and present to translate timeless messages into contemporary thought. Margaret Wood describes Rusty Maze, this quilt you see here, as a crazy quilt with a message. The quilt developed from a collection of fabrics she accumulated over a decade that all featured the color rust. That rusty color is also the tone of the southwestern landscape where Wood grew up, as well as the deep red-brown skin of the native peoples of her homeland. Rusty Maze interprets the Navajo wedding basket form as well as its counterpart in Pima culture, the man in the maize basket. Both basketry forms embody the concept of a pathway to the light, to the center, the good path, the righteous path, the middle path. Wood talks of the quilt as a kind of map. The viewer enters the path representative of the path of life at the upper corner upon, I'm sorry, at the upper left corner along the back white and red stair-step pattern of the Navajo wedding basket design. In traversing the path, the way becomes less distinct as the colors disintegrate and the pathway forks. For Wood, this symbolizes the choices that must be made in life when there is not always a clear, strong path to follow. Though through many permutations, the path leads back to where it began. But we sense that this path is probably not just a circle, but a spiral. Though the path seems to lead back to the beginning, it is actually spiraling upward. In its title, Rusty Maize also reminds us of the symbol of maize, corn, the life-sustaining grain of this Western hemisphere that links so many of the indigenous cultures of the Americas. Corn images point the way, leading us in the 4 directions from south to east, north to west. Each corn symbol is designed from patchwork squares of red, yellow, black, and white, colors that in combination simulate flesh tone. Thus, the corn images remind us of our relationship to one another in this journey of life. In the center of Rusty Maize, a montage includes a tree of life design. Symbolic variations of the tree of life occur in many cultures throughout the world. However represented, the tree of life teaches the strength of walking the middle path, in between good and evil, with integrity and balance and in harmony with others. Rusty Maize is truly a crazy quilt with a message for all of humanity.
Very
I
nice. I love that.
I thought that was a very good narrative description, not only for this quilt. I feel like it's one of the only major narratives we get for like in depth for the quilts that
Mhm.
we've looked at. But I also thought like, wow, I feel like this sends a very good message for today.
Sure. Yes.
And all the things that we're dealing with in the world. Um, I was like, that's good. We're gonna talk about that. But I thought that was really good. And it's interesting too that she calls it a crazy quilt because technically, by the definition from Penny McMorris, this wouldn't technically be a crazy quilt.
Yeah, not at all. To me, it's more of like a well, it's not really pictorial, but I mean, but it is kind of pictorial, you know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
each of those elements does tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, it's an art quilt, you know,
Mm.
it's got many layers of meaning. And I mean, I guess to her, it's like it's a lot. It's very collagey, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just got a lot going on, and I think that's probably where she's going with crazy. Also,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
All right. I'm
it's a pretty
gonna
neat quilt. Like those are not colors I love, but
no.
um, you know, being able to read what she says about it, I thought was you know, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, two things in this section are on either side of this that I found that I really loved. And really quickly on the next page, or no, yeah, it is the next page. Did you notice Mrs. Hillary Clinton?
No.
Yeah, turn the page. Nellie Starboy Menard, her piece. The picture where there's the one picture of her with her red star quilt, and then beside it is her receiving an award. I think it's an NEA from the National Endowment of the Arts award from Hillary Clinton.
Oh, I wasn't even.
Yeah, page 199.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, oh my goodness, she's so young there. No, I
I
didn't even notice.
know.
I barely
That's what I
paid
thought was so
attention
funny.
to them white ladies.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, so the kind of the final quilt that in here that was like, this is breathtaking. And I'll be honest, I do not love red and black. Like,
Oh, yes.
but this
Mhm.
quilt, oh,
Yeah.
it is stunning. Um, and it's in its simplicity. Um, and I know she's got a so this was Jennifer Emerson Stocy. She's got this particular, the conflict of in her life between Christianity and Native American religion, with the crosses or the plus signs, but nonetheless, I mean, those from a design standpoint are just
Mhm.
like, mwah, chef's
Mhm.
kiss. This is like just such a fantastic quilt.
Mhm.
So, yeah, those were kind of the two things I took away. But love this quilt, even though it's not something that I would ordinarily really be drawn to. Hillary Clinton looks real young, and some of the stuff about Hawaiian quilting. Um, but yeah, above all, just it was really interesting to me to just kind of soak in even with the repetition of these women that, I mean, I had learned a while back about the star quilts, but I
Mhm.
still didn't quite, I'd heard, baby naming ceremonies and that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. But the actual getting into the actual details of all that, I think has been so fantastic. And I
Mhm.
really, the editing issues aside, I really do like this book. And I think that Marsha MacDowell and I think Kurt Dewhurst is her husband, right?
I don't know.
I think so. I think he is. I just think that they just did a really nice job with this, and
Mhm.
that there's so many voices in this. It's not like they just went out and interviewed people, but they literally had women from these communities and men. I mean, I think several of
Mhm.
these pieces were written by men, but these people from the communities actually writing the essays that accompanied all of this.
No, in the last bit there where it talked about really like the nitty-gritty of their project, I thought it was fantastic that they made a point of saying, it was a major priority to make sure that wherever possible, native voices were the ones talking and interpreting and
Hmm.
things like
Yep.
that, where historically that's not what's done.
Exactly. And this was with the 90s. Um, I've been looking at so many books lately, I can't remember what
I
dates.
know you've got a lot of bookage going on in your
Yeah,
life.
so this was 97. This was the year my
Mhm.
son was born. So it doesn't seem like it's not that long ago, but it was a long time ago. It was 27 years ago.
A lot
Um,
happens in 27 years.
yes. And you just think about museums and repatriation.
Hmm.
Like that's an important thing now, but almost 30 years ago, I mean, certainly people were talking about things like that, but it was
Yeah, it
not
was
like
not at the forefront of anything
it
really
was
in
not a major
27 era.
focus. And the fact that, Marsha McDowell and Kurt Dewhurst approached this with that level of respect
Hmm.
that has taken, major, museums and archives and such some time to get there.
No, it's major collaborative work, which before we go on to the next thing we and I talked about, speaking of collaborative work, I did mention a while ago when we started this book that I would show some photos of collaborative archaeology. And we're gonna do that. So this is my photo album on my Facebook from 2011 when I was digging on the Eastern Pequot tribal nation of North Stonington, Connecticut. And we dug with members of the tribe. We had a he was like the preservation, what's the name of the word? You might know it because of your husband's work. He was I want to say he was kind of like in charge of the reservation, but like a preservation specialist or something.
Yeah,
Forget.
well, yeah, I mean, it probably varies by state, what like area, like preservation departments.
Yeah, I forget what his exact title was, but this is the beginning of it all. These are shovel test pits where you're digging in increments of so
Oh,
many meters, and you
uh-huh.
dig these deep holes
Hmm.
to see if you're going to find a site.
Oh,
You're looking for evidence of a site to open a big grid.
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered like how does archaeology decide on these things? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of
Yeah,
kind of
if
like
you
when they're
don't
looking for a buried corpse. They kind of stick.
Well, if you don't have an actual, like oftentimes, depending on where you're digging, you'll have obvious things that tell you there's a site there, you know? Like there might be
Sure.
like some kind of mound that
Hmm.
looks oddly suspicious in this big field,
Hmm.
you know? And that might be a house that throughout time ends up getting, buried over and things like that. And that's really what we were digging on. Is we were looking for evidence of continued occupation on the site because remember I had mentioned that the group has had a hard time with their federal recognition. They have had it granted and then they've had it taken away. I believe they don't currently have it, if I understand correctly, because I do still follow one of the tribal interns we worked with, and she's very active in the group, and um I'm pretty sure they said they don't currently have it. So part of the issue has been with their history. They've got gaps in
Oh,
their
okay, so it's about establishing like a through line of time,
hmm
and the archaeology itself can help
yeah,
establish
can help
that
show that they've been living
continuity.
on the land.
Yeah, got it.
hmm So yeah, this is Bob. This is one of the kids I went to school with. His name's Eric. He was my shovel test pit partner. And funny story, um, at one point we're digging in these test pits, right? And they're deep and it's hard. Notice we're in the woods. What is in the woods when you're digging holes? Lots of roots.
Ah,
So
yes.
try taking this like big square shovel and just like digging down nice and neat. Like, it doesn't happen. So anywho, we're like digging down. I've got sunglasses on top of my head because you can see the sun does still come through depending on where you're sitting. And at one point I sit up and I'm like, I hear this buzzing and we were dealing with some horse flies. And I don't know if you've ever been bitten by a horse fly, but like
Yes,
that
it's
shit
terrible.
hurts. And yeah,
They
so
bite and they chew.
yeah, so I look up and I hear this buzz and I say to Eric, I'm like, is there a horsefly on my head? And he's like, I'll get it. And he like bitch slaps me to the point where he breaks my sunglasses.
Oh my gosh.
And my professor is not far away. Like he's in a test pit not far from us. And he looks up and he was like, that was a hard slap. And I'm just like,
Oh my
anyhow.
goodness.
Yeah, anywho, I'm sure he'll love the fact that I've like told that story. So yeah, this is my professor, Steve Silliman. I'll let you just admire. Um, these are still some guys. We're still doing shovel tests, but so you can see how far away people are from each other, the pits are.
Hmm.
And this that's there you go. She tagged herself. Yasmin. She's screening. So we're doing these test pits. We're pulling stuff out in, big buckets, and then we're putting them in screens and shaking them to see if there's debris in there. Things like, pottery shards,
Does Facebook
beads.
let you in the upper right-hand corner? Is that an expand the screen just to make the picture bigger? Yes. I don't
I
know
was
if
gonna
it
say,
made it
did it
much
make it
bigger.
that much bigger? I
I
don't
don't
feel
think
like
it
it
did,
did.
but
Let's see. Wait, is there anywhere does it let me zoom anywhere?
yeah, the little in the little the little
Oh,
magnifying glasses. Yeah.
there you go.
Here we go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
There's Eric again and Bobby. There's my professor down in a test pit. So you can see like there's a big honking rock right here. Like these things were the biggest pain in the ass. We
How
were,
many of them do you dig?
how many did we do? I want to say we probably dug at least 20. We were working in sets of two. No, we had to do more than 20. 40 maybe? I don't know.
Hmm.
They were very obnoxious. And at one point, um, the um the grad assistant who I'm very good friends with, but she came over at one point because we had to start using trowels because there's a million huge roots. She walks over, she's like, these are shovel test pits, not trowel test pits. And it's like, okay, you come over here and you take this, you dig that nice beautiful hole then. And you had to make it square. And you notice where the stake is, that had to be north. Like, yeah, I was like, so that's her. That's Anna right there. This is my friend Danny. And they were using this gun surveying equipment to kind of like decide the lines that we
Mm-hmm.
would work in. Uh, and we are in the middle of the woods. There's, we had to hike up this huge ass hill to our site. It gave me a massive Charlie horse. Good times. Oh, and there's her going like, "Oh, you're taking pictures of me." This picture is kind of blurry. It's not. So you can see this property line. We still have all these old property lines everywhere. They're all over the place if you go into the woods anywhere. So we knew we were inside some kind of property. And this person right here, this is one of the tribal interns. His name was Ashbo. Eric, screen and stuff. Oh, that's a better picture. He was our artifact whisperer. Anywhere that he dug, he pulled stuff out, even if someone wasn't pulling stuff out of there previously. He does work now. He became like he grew up and became an archaeologist for a public archaeology lab in Massachusetts. I don't think he still works there, but he's really involved in some kind of native archaeology organization down on Cape Cod. There's another shovel test pit right next to a tree. Fun times. See, you can see how tight we are just working on shovel test pits. Don't worry,
So
we
wait a minute,
actually.
was the guy the one that was doing the sifting? Is he the one that slapped you?
Yep, that's the guy that's laughing. Yeah.
So he's an artifact whisperer and an obnoxious slapper.
Yep. That became one of the running jokes was him slapping me. Like if there was a bug around, um, it would be like, "Oh my God, run away. Don't let Eric see it." Like more just working in the woods. I swear we do actually open up a site. I'm just trying not to go too fast to make people nauseous. More
Yeah,
just traipsing
it
through the
looks a
woods.
lot. It looks like a lot of people standing around in the woods with some equipment.
Yep. I don't even know what that is a picture of except a fallen tree. I don't know what that was about. Inside a shovel test pit. More, see, she's digging with a freaking trowel because you just like had to. Um, it was the middle of summer. It was hot as balls, but you still have to wear layers because see how my hand's all wrapped up?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had touched a tree covered in vine, like tree vine poison ivy,
Oh,
and I had
fun.
poison ivy all in the webbing of my
Oh
fingers.
no, that's the worst.
It was so painful. It was really gnarly, like it was like pulsing and changing colors. And then that girl Anna, the grad student, she ended up getting it too, and she ended up needing IV antibiotics
Oh my
while she
goodness.
was while she was on her way to France.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, it was, oh man, it was so, I should have taken pictures of it. It was really bad. I've never had poison ivy like that serious before in my life. So here I am in a shovel test pit, clearly hating life.
You look like such a baby.
I mean, this is 2011. So I'm, wait, let's see, it's 2024 minus
You have to do the math to figure out
I have to do the math.
weren't you in your undergrad?
I was 25.
Oh, 25. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so Janet
Okay,
said
we have found a site.
that they had a dig on her farm when she was a kid down by a creek, an Indian village. They found a fire pit, tent pole holes, and a garbage pit. Lots of arrowheads.
Garbage pits are where it's at. We have found one too. They're called, in archaeological terms, they're called middens. Not Mitt, Midd.
Yeah, I've
But
seen
yeah,
that word before.
yep. So we cracked open a site. Um, so every time you dig down another level, you have to photograph it. And that's what Steve is doing here is he's photographing this pit right here. And then you put up your little board here that says what we're doing, and we're just blocking the sunlight for him. So here we are getting deep down into stuff. We ended up in a house. Um, I'm pretty sure that maybe this unit right here ends up being a unit that I worked on for a long time, which ended up being where the foundation of the house came to a corner. So my unit had an inside and an outside part to it of the house. And here you can start to really see the different layers of things because
Mm.
some units we end up taking down deeper than others.
Hmm.
We basically started to discover what we figured was the basement of the house.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it's historically where they're storing food and things like that because it's cold.
And when would this house have been from? Like, what era was this?
I think if I remember correctly, it was probably, I think he said 1700s.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly. Keep in mind, a lot of analysis happens once they get back to the lab, and that's not something that my group was really all that involved in. We did do some flotation for them, which is a lot of dirt. We collected samples of dirt throughout all of the digging process in different areas and different layers of things. And we bring it back and we float it in a water contraption that is sifting out all those things like pollen
Hmm.
and flora and different things that those paleoethnobotanists look at later. It is quite a messy business, I will tell you. That's Steve. He's really fun. He's super fun and clearly very gorgeous. This is the professor that I told you is in the newest movie rendition of Little Women. He
Ah,
got he
okay.
got a cameo role as a let's see, at that point he would have been a footman in one of the, apparently he also made it into the preview because they needed men that had like that long hair and like the facial hair and stuff like that. Here I am in my unit. I'm just digging away. You can't see that there's like so the foundation corner is like kind of like right here. My friend Danny decided we would have a contest of who got the dirtiest one
You got
day.
the dirtiest clothes about to say.
Yeah. So this is pictures from the powwow that we were invited to attend. And part of the deal of attending is we were forced to dance. I
Of course.
I'm sure someone has video of it somewhere. I do not. It was a very interesting, enlightening kind of ceremony. I felt very honored to be there. More dancing. I forget which dance that particularly is. Something with the males are doing. This was that blanket dance that I told you about, where I had said like I don't remember seeing quilts. This was kind of the closest that I think we got to maybe seeing quilts. And these are more along the lines of those like woven blankets.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the left that definitely looks like a woven blanket, but the one that's got the red in it, I can't tell.
I'm pretty sure that one's woven too. I know for a fact the one we're looking at right there is woven.
Hmm.
Off the top of my head, I forget this woman's name, but she's a professor. I think, is it like Connecticut College, maybe? I forget. Sh we were staying on Connecticut College campus, but I'm not sure if she taught there or not. More dancing. This woman was the sweetest old lady ever. She must have been like 100 years old. She was such a delightful lady. I feel like if anyone was going to quilt, it was going to be her. Look, this person right here who you'll see later in the red, that was another tribal intern, Nikki. She's the one that I had mentioned I still follow, and she's very still active, like she might be on the council, the tribal council or something like that. I want to say there were probably a good 50 or so people. Yeah, that's the old lady. Oh my goodness. I don't even remember her name. She was she said like two sentences to me and I was just like, "Can I come home with you?" Like you are so delightful. There you go. There's more of Nikki, and I believe this was her sister or her cousin right here. Here we are just yucking it up. So when we had to dig down a particular level, we put this grid on because not only was it photographed, we also had to draw what was going on in our unit at each particular level. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little obnoxious. But you can see like we're really starting to get down deep into things because you can literally sit on stuff and put your legs in there. Somebody's butt. Sifting, like we're really getting in here now. Like we've got straight, pretty clean lines.
Yeah, I mean that looks like an archaeological dig. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a real thing. That's Nikki, the tribal intern. She like refused to like let me take a photo where she was like looking at me. I think I even got a photo of me and her and she refuses to look at the camera. Anyhow. So yeah, I think this was some of the foundation. The stones in the line here. Forget which part of the thing we're looking at there. Lots of roots to dig around. That was unpleasant. There's our artifact whisperer. Pulling stuff out. That's why he's got a little bag there, is he's pulling out goodies left and right. At one point, he pulled out a whole intact, like big, like scissor shear. Like it was. He's like, "Hey, how
Wow.
about this?" Like it was funny. This guy Ari, is digging away in this spot that's been pretty fruitful, and he's not finding anything. So he's like, "That's it. I give up. I'm gonna go over here and do this thing." So Eric goes in and continues, and then he's like, "Hey, look what I got!" Like 3 seconds later,
And everybody's sure he wasn't pulling things out of his pocket.
they're sure. They're sure. Yeah. That guy was hysterical. Oh my God. It's a wonder I wasn't peeing my pants. That's me and Bobby. I'm such a baby and I'm dirty.
You really are. You look so young.
I mean, I'm 25 and thinner. Another friend. Yeah, see, tribal intern. She's like, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm not looking at the camera. That's Ashbo. I believe he still lives on the reservation. Anna. So, this is the basement.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Eric had to get underneath the roots in order to keep digging down in there. But that's where they were pulling all kinds of stuff out. Scissors and pieces of porcelain, pottery. The thing we were really like, ooh, if we found would have been wampum beads. We did
Mhm.
not find any. At least at this point, we didn't find any. I don't know if any showed up in flotation. Because again, we're not really involved after that point. More sifting. I couldn't really do any sifting because of the poison ivy, because you have to pull and shake like this. So I got out of doing any sifting. And we always had might have been what, conservation, I don't know, but he was always with us. And every time by the end, when we moved on and had to close everything up, he would put tobacco in the units to bless them. So that's what I mean when like we really have the tribe involved. One day elders even came up to visit us. See, I do work. And more work. So this photo, this is 100% candid. As you can see, things are pretty deep. And there was nowhere for me to sit to like lean over. So I am laying across a big ass root. You can see like I have like a little pad under me here.
Uh-huh.
And my professor came over. I'm digging away and I'm just like holding, digging away. And he comes over and he goes, "Hey, Jill." And I like look up and It's kind of funny at at this point. It's like we were talking about making a calendar. It's like, should this be the calendar? Like,
The centerfold of the yeah.
yeah. And I am dirty. This was the day, so you can see now, because I'm at my unit at the end, and you can see right here these stones. That's the foundation corner there. So we were kind of like guessing, like kind of where, because we had pieces of the foundation, so we were kind of guessing where it went. But anyhow, some tribal people came up.
56K here is trying to come in here and make
But
this into a sex show. No, I'm kidding.
oh. It's funny, him and I had started dating not too long before I went on this dig.
Ah.
Yeah. So we had some tribal people come up. This is a tribal elder. It's so funny. One of the gals that came up, she's like, I'm too old to get down and like look at stuff. And this lady's like, well, I'm not. And she gets down. And I'm pretty sure we weren't allowed to take pictures of anything we were pulling up. But I'm pretty sure that what I'm showing her here are bones that I was pulling out of the ground that had clearly been bones from food that was eaten, because you could see striations in the bone from it being the meat being cut off the bone.
Hmm.
And that's it.
Very interesting.
I
Yeah.
I I
I
thought
was
you thought
curious
so.
about what this all looked like. And I mean, I've seen, well, I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid. And
Oh,
you have fully disabused me.
you
I'm like,
know,
whew, thank goodness I didn't go down that line.
so one thing I will say is that anyone can do this. You don't have to go to school for it. There are digs all over the world that you can look up and you can go and dig at, and they'll train you. You usually just have to pay your way.
Yeah, they actually have that here in Maryland down at Calvert Cliffs. And they're digging, oh gosh, they're digging everything from like 17th, 18th century kind of stuff like this to pre-colonial Native American activity or
Mhm.
places they've been, as well as fossils.
Well, I have to say, like, this dig, which was 5 weeks, and we were housed on a campus. This dig was a compromise for me because this wasn't this Native American things were not my area of study, really. I was more interested in, again, religious material culture. So the dig I really wanted to go on was digging on a 7th century church. And while we were digging, you were housed in a monastery that was carved into the side of a mountain.
Oh wow. And where
And
was
it was,
this?
um, ugh, I want to say it was in like Bavaria or something
Ooh.
like that. It was just going to be too expensive.
Yeah.
Flights and this, the blah, 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 blah. And then there was another dig I had considered. The reason I didn't follow through with that, the professor I talked to was wonderful, and he was thrilled with the idea of having me there, but your accommodations the whole time was camping.
Ugh, no.
And I will say that the friend of mine, Danny, that you saw, who was like, let's see how dirty we can get. This was her second dig. She did a dig down in, I'm not gonna remember exactly what country it is now, but she was digging like Mayan ruins type stuff.
Hmm.
And the stories,
Oh, I'm sure. Anything, any place where there's like bugs and like dirt, mud. You think about like the like Egyptology. Like you think about Egyptian digs and it's like,
oh,
yeah, it's
I can tell you about a friend that did an Egyptian
yeah,
dig
it's
too.
dirty, I'm sure, but it's like it's a dusty dirt versus like
Well,
a muddy
except for the
dirt.
fact that guess what they have when you're digging in Egypt are camel spiders.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they have horrible
But yeah, she's like
sand bugs
telling me,
too.
well, two stories that I remember her telling me specifically. Three. Oh, Belize. Thank you, honey. Yes, she was in Belize.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
she was talking about specifically one day waiting outside for the showers because they showered outside. They had limited water, so they had to like take turns and stand in line. And she's standing there yakking with somebody, and she looks down and there's a tarantula on her leg. And then another story was you could always tell which of the field school people were out like doing the hot dog dance at night because they would be covered in chigger bites on their back
Oh gosh.
from laying
Oh,
down
those
on
are
the
the
ground.
worst. Nothing will make you scratch your skin down to your bones. But chigger bites. Those are the most
And
horrible
then
little animals.
the other thing she told me about was the whoever organized the dig, they hired local Mennonite women to do the laundry for the field school. And there was more than one story, I guess, about how if they did not like your underwear, they would cut the crotch out of it.
Oh my gosh.
Like, and it's so funny because there was a girl on our dig where every time she bent over, you saw her thong from like the next town. And we would all just be like, who on earth wants to wear that kind of underwear when we are out here like contorted, like anywho.
Yeah, I've never understood the butt floss at all. So
So, well, it's funny when Danny came back from her dig and she's telling me all about it and stuff. And it was another dig that she went with like our school. Um, I had said to her, I'm like, they should not have you talk to people if they're considering going on this dig because all you have officially done is talked me out of
yeah.
ever going to Belize
Yeah.
on
I
dig.
don't mind getting dirty. Like I think that it's fascinating to like lie with your head in a hole, like digging around for stuff. That's so cool. But like at the end of the end of the day, the end of the work day, I want to go back to a place that has a comfortable bed and I can take a shower. I don't
Oh,
want to
we
be
did
like,
have that because remember, we stayed on a
yeah.
college campus. We
Exactly.
stayed
That's what
in
I'm saying.
associated
I could
houses.
do that like what you did, but yeah, to be someplace where what when you're done, you're just camping. Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, bugs, limited water. I mean, I guess if it was someplace near a beach, I could go like run in the run in the surf. Maybe a different story, but oh gosh. Ugh. I'm not a camper. I'm not an outdoors person, which is, of course, my husband being a park manager.
Yeah. But anywho, it was very interesting working with the tribe. Now, did you want to quickly pull up
Yeah.
the
So
Smithsonian thing?
yeah, so I'll share my screen for that. It's I just pulled up a handful of quilts that I thought were really interesting to look at. Um
Well, we pulled them up because the article specifically mentioned the Smithsonian, what is it, National, there we go, Museum of the American
National
Indian.
Museum of the American Indian. I will throw this in.
Oh, thanks, Druid. Druid says I make it look great.
I'm gonna throw this in the chat. This was the search, so if you want to go and look. Um,
By the way,
but
for anyone watching, that dig still is an ongoing thing. And if you ever wanted to be part of it, I can totally hook you up with the guy that still runs it.
yeah, cool. So first of all, we looked at I had pulled up the Michigan Quilt Project,
Hmm.
and it has all of these museum collections in it,
Oh.
with the one Michigan State University being the one that we want to look at, and then within Michigan State University, we have the North American Indian and Native Hawaiian Quilt Collection. And as I scrolled through
Oh.
here, I said, well, all of these pictures and
Hmm.
all of these quilts were in the book. Now there are some that were not. There are some in here that were not, but I'm just like, okay, I kind of want to look at something different because we've seen these. So that's when I went over to the National Museum of the American Indian, which is a Smithsonian property, and just did a search for quilt. And they have 135 objects. Towards the end, some of them are not actually quilts, they're quilted things. And then in the archives, this was cool, and we're not really going to look at this because some of this is not actually online, but there are a few historical photos. So if you do go to
Mm.
that link and you look for a photo to be here, because all of these other things are
You can
just like
click on that photo.
the finding aids. Yeah. Um,
Love it.
yeah, it's a very cool picture. Um, but oh crud. Oops. Yeah, so if there's not a picture there, there's nothing for you to look at. Like all of this stuff is like finding aids and stuff. So I had gone through here a little ways. I think there's a handful of pictures. Like these are later pictures. They're not old. So um yeah. So there's not a whole lot there, but it was interesting to look at. So what I was most concerned with are the objects. So let's look at a few of these. This one
Oh.
I love. And so I don't know. And the unfortunate thing about this is, at least in the book, we have some of the history, and the information about the quilts. We don't have any information about this quilt. But what it reminds me of are these dresses that I saw at the Renwick Gallery. And it was literally like the weekend COVID arrived in the United States. And I got to go to this Renwick Gallery exhibit, and I'm so glad I did because, then everything fell apart and I would have never gotten back there before it closed. But they had a dress on display, and it was shaped like this. And by this, I mean like this kind of A-line dress shape. Very simple. And then sewn all over it are teeth. And I think they were elk teeth. But it has like a significance, these dresses with these objects shown on them. There's also like the jingle dresses that have little almost like jingle bells made out of rolled up tin, like, and I think sometimes they'll literally use like recycled items, or you can buy these jingles now. And so that's another type of dress. I'm always really, really fascinated by the regalia and the clothing. And so that's what this reminded me of. And I mean, it is supposed to be a dress. It does say dress. But other than that, I don't really know about it. So this is one I want to look into. And I think it is Margaret Wood. Yes, this is a Margaret Wood a piece. So sounds like she's made others. This one,
Oh.
look at that. So just a different kind of star. And this fabric, if I can zoom into this. Yeah, this fabric is, I don't know, it looks like something from the 50s maybe. Um, but I just thought this was really cool looking. And, from a craftsmanship standpoint, I mean, you can kind of see this is not like a master quilter. But this combination of these colors, is really interesting. I thought that was cool. This is another Margaret Wood piece.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And let's see, it's called TP. But I guess my question is, like, I'm guessing, yeah, like she's made a teepee, like a quilt. Um, and then she's got the poles that go with it here. I didn't look to see. Yeah, model teepee quilt made of quilted and painted cloth with blue, red, yellow, and brown geometric and handprint designs with suede patches. 10 carved poles, 8 are bound with leather straps, 5 animal bone pins. Really interesting. Yeah. And then this one, I mean, does not look like a Native American quilt in any way, shape, or form, but I just thought it was so pretty. And it is star
little
oriented.
stars.
Yeah.
It's little
So
scrappy stars.
yeah. And let's see, I think this is
And I love me some plaid.
Mm-hmm. And you could see the borders on this. It's got, multiple borders. And just so scrappy. I just loved it. And this pattern itself is kind of like the way it goes together, they're all straight. Everything is a straight line, but it gives you this kind of circular look. And I actually have some blocks, some unfinished blocks that are this here. But then once you put them together, you've got this other space, and they've pieced that too. So that's like a 4-pointed star. Yeah, you can put these together where that space is just an empty space. This design with these little arrow type things is called it's a swallow or something. It's supposed to be birds flying. And that's a traditional pattern. But this maker took those shapes and then made them used the star technique with the diamonds to make these things. I thought that was really neat. And then, they've got this, non-square border with these like kind of tab corners going on.
Yeah, they're like, it needs a little extra razzle dazzle.
Yeah, yeah. And I just thought, and there's a couple of quilts in the collection that are like this.
Yeah, and what's
Um,
funny is the way that they've constructed this, it makes it kind of medallion-like.
mhm. Yeah. And I actually have a quilt top. It does not belong to me. It needs to get back to where it belongs. But it that uses this again, it's like flying swallows or something like that. Um and this is like, it seems to me to be kind of a difficult setting to do,
Mm.
because it's they're in this case, she's able to, kind of use the square here, right? To kind of
Hmm.
square it up. But if you don't have, this kind of device in the middle that creates these squares, this is a weird angle. It's not
Hmm.
like an easily divisible mathematical angle. The way that, 45 degrees, what is the 60 degrees, you've got all these different like standards. And I
Hmm.
think that the way you set these up it's not a standard. It's something oddball. So,
I think she did that as a nine patch, a big, large nine patch
hmm.
when she assembled the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Yeah. I think I can kind of see some of that. I don't know.
Hmm.
Okay. This next, look at
I
that.
I did see that. I thought that was very interesting. It's
Wow.
funny when I those center things first give me those vibes of those like antique pineapple
Mm-hmm.
pieces that we see in
Mm-hmm.
quilts, but then she calls it something else.
I think it's tulip something, and I like that was kind of weird to me.
Is it at the
Um,
top?
at the top. Yeah, tulip
Yeah,
star.
tulip star.
And I don't know, maybe these are kind of tulipy.
Well, I mean tulips before they open.
Yeah, maybe. To me, this looked like bundles of I don't know if you've ever seen, well, I think you have one, a lavender wand. Do you guys know? Have you ever seen a lavender wand?
Hmm. Hmm.
Where they take the stem of the lavender and then they
I do have one of those. It came in a sewing basket.
yes, and I think you were kind of like, what the hell? And I was like, this
Yep.
is what this is. But they kind of bind it like right below, like imagine this was a bundle of lavender. They'd
Hmm.
bind it right here, and then they'd bring the stems back over the lavender, and then you weave ribbon around it. And so it
Mm.
ends up looking like this little, like a giant like cotton swab or something, but it's made of lavender and ribbon. And
Druid said crocus.
crocus. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of what these reminded me of, like kind of like some type of baton sort of
Mm.
thing. But
I am also really enjoying the color. I feel like we don't see a lot of purple,
mhm.
or at
And
least in the ones we've looked at, I don't feel like we've seen a lot of purple.
they use the Baptist fan or elbow quilting.
Mm-hmm.
Were you the I know, I'm trying to remember. Were you the one that told me that, or was that in this book or one of the books we read? Was
No, you and I think we're together
we heard
when we
somebody talk
heard
about
about the
mention elbow
elbow.
quilting, and we're like, what? And it's like, oh, it's the same. It's you're just putting your elbow down and you're marking the arc.
Druid said, I have a lavender wand, which is made just as you described it, Cake.
Yeah. They are such beautiful, like good smelling little things. Okay, look
I
at that.
really liked this a lot.
Yeah. Aside from the fact that I'm assuming these are navy blue, maybe these are black though. I can't really tell with my screen. But I think this background is like a pale blue. It's really radiant. It's very pretty.
This reminds me, it's funny, it's like it's all obviously we can see that all those pieces are pieces of like the star pattern, right? That
Hmm.
make that, but the way that they've done it, it looks like kaleidoscope.
Hmm. Well, I mean, it is those little diamond pieces, but the way
Hmm.
it's almost like they've kind of taken, instead of those tight packed diamond units, they've like exploded it,
Hmm.
you know? This, I think, is just a really, really just striking pattern. It is not, you
And
know,
very different than a lot of what we've looked at.
yeah. And I mean, there's nothing about it that is particularly Native American, but it's a pattern that they, just chose. And just, I think these two colors of blue, it's just really, really striking. I don't
Hmm.
know, let's see, nighttime. was the title for this one. And let's see. This was made, let's see, this is Prairie Cree. Um, I did notice that a lot of these in here did have some provenance. And I want to say there was one that was part of a repatriation project. Like they don't think they have the maker's name, but they do
Mm-hmm.
have like the community it came from.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I just because you guys, I love pink, and this just looks like such like a girly, like Barbie pink kind of,
It's
you know?
very cheery.
Yeah, the pinks and the purples. I mean, it just looks like it came right out of a Barbie dream house. I love that so much. And then this last one, there were a number of quilts that are, very, I don't know what's the word. Like, I mean, very modern, very representational. It's kind of like not really sure what this is, but it says shell number one. And
Hmm.
I think is this, yeah, this is also Margaret Wood. Man, she's
Mm.
prolific.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like having looked at her stuff, and I mean, you read the piece about the rusty maze.
Maze. Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I mean, thinking about how old that quilt is, and let's see, when was this one made? This is 2004. So, and what year was, we know the maze quilt has got to be at least 97 or before. Um, yeah, see if I can find it real quick. Okay, so this quilt is 10 years after the Rusty Maze quilt.
Interesting.
So yeah, so think about the Rusty Maze quilt. If you've got your book with you and got it open, you can look at that and then look at this. It's very, very different. But I'm looking at these things, and again, I'm by no means an expert on anything Native American, but to me, this looks like some of the, I don't know, beads, or it could be, um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, it
To me, it reminds me of like that beading work that
yes,
would be worn around the neck.
yes, and I do know
Mm.
some of the beaded designs do have like a red or a black and white kind of beads, the sort of, it's almost like making a line, like to really
Mm-hmm.
make something pop. And then this, to me, like this could be like the surface of a shell, but it also has almost like a spider webby look about
Yeah,
it. Like,
that's where that was my first thought until you said shell.
And so I would really, and it looks like it's curved on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, we can't tell if that's where it ends or if or if it ends at like with the black at the bottom there with the red and the black and white band there.
no,
Like,
I
is
mean
that
this,
actually the bottom?
yeah, I'm pretty sure this is curved on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and there's just okay. Oh, okay. So it's made of red, turquoise, black and white fabric sewn and quilted, and 4 shell buttons depicting
Oh.
turquoise matrix with an onyx and jet band on a shell base, which represents the pendants made by the Hohokam and Anasazi circa 1000 AD. Okay. So yes, it
Mhm.
is. This is kind of a pendant or something like. So I think we
Hmm.
were right that this is something. Yeah, and then this is supposed to be turquoise, the matrix of the turquoise.
Very interesting.
And these are the buttons. I thought that there was this little thing down here.
Oh, I couldn't even tell. Can you zoom into that?
Yeah, I don't know if let's see. I think, oh, yep, there we go. Yep.
Hmm. Very
Oh,
interesting quilting too.
oh yeah, look at that. Like it's hard to tell that's what that looks like. They're just lines. They're not really connected.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, I knew that there was something there, but I wasn't sure if it was part of like, that little grid that they put at the bottom. I wasn't sure if it was something else related to that. So very cool. But yeah, I like this. I don't, it speaks to me. So
Very worth getting in there and really
yeah,
futzing
yeah.
around.
Check those out if you have time. They're really, really,
Mhm.
really, really good. Yeah. Well, is there anything else we had to add?
I feel like that was a good way to end our 6 weeks of honor and comfort. And not only that, this was our last book of the year.
Hmm.
And we officially come full circle, and November is our 1 year anniversary of doing this. We only thought we were doing it on the short term just to keep the group going, and look how far we've come. And how many books did I say it would be? 10 books this
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, that's what really surprised me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
And yeah, and I mean, yes, we thought it would be kind of a temporary thing we were gonna do with like a little book club just for a little
Hmm.
bit. And but the network, the network renewed our spinoff. So
And we keep having fun things to look at. And like, just because we're done now with books for the year, we're not done. Like we're still gonna
yeah, we've
be
got stuff.
here.
We
Yeah.
got stuff.
We're still gonna be here. We have a back. We decided to be done with books because we've got a backlog of stuff we want to look at. Like we've got, exhibits that we need to look at, things we need to talk about, other things we want to investigate. Like we still haven't even done the photos from that unframing of
Oh,
that
yeah.
pillow, that quilt, that pillowcase quilt that I had that we unframed at seminar. Like, you know, things get away from us, so we figured it's a good time to like wrap it up with all kinds of stuff. It'll just be more interactive than just like looking at
Yeah,
books and
it'll be
stuff.
fun. And we've also been kicking around, the ideas about Druid, I don't know if it's gonna stick, but it might. We just talking about stitching and glitching.
Yep. We were talking about that, and then also we did briefly talk about potentially doing some kind of like co-working kind of things. Like what would y'all think if we were just like shooting the breeze in our sewing rooms, doing whatever, or not even in sewing rooms. I mean, I could be in here doing a little actual work. And just we're just kind of chilling on Zoom and we just like throw on the stream at whenever it happens. I mean, I know people liked it when Mary did that because Steph and I were both talking about how we're in a bit of a productivity slump and could use a little motivation slash, accountability partners and just some company,
Yeah.
if that's of interest to anybody. So yeah, there
Yeah.
are things we'll
We
be
got
around.
plans. We've got crafty little plans.
Mhm, mhm. Well,
Well,
on that note, I still have not eaten dinner.
yes, I too did not eat dinner because I ate a really late lunch.
Yeah,
And
I didn't eat dinner because
yeah.
Sunday basically ate Thanksgiving for lunch and was too full. So,
Well, just as a reminder, on Thursday, Ms. Mary Fons will be joining a Cake TV. So I hope everybody can be there. And if not, that you will watch the replay. I'll make sure that it gets there on YouTube and it'll be available on Twitch too. And yeah, like we've got keep an eye on the calendar. We've got other stuff coming up, even though we're not reading the book anymore.
oh, good. My dinner's gonna start to get cooked. Thanks, honey.
It's good to have him here so he can
Yeah,
tell you things.
yeah.
All right, guys, have a wonderful evening and we will catch you on the flip side.
Good night.